gone to a few user conferences, just trying to keep a pulse on what it's like to actually be a person using the tech, making decisions throughout their workday. And one of the points that I thought was really fascinating is how much customers contribute to innovation.
Yes.
Would you speak about that a little bit?
Sure. I'm actually customer facing all the time because I'm really trying to understand from them, here's what we've built, but give me feedback. Is this what you are experiencing in your own organization? And I think what's really interesting about that is, at ServiceNow, we are so focused on the employee and that employee experience. And so one of the things that we have heard, and we actually just came out with our Employee Experience Trends Report, where we surveyed 1,200 HR leaders globally across 7 industries. The most important thing that they're focused on over the next 18 months, employee experience, and really driving employee satisfaction, right? And of course there's cost and efficiency in there, but it was that, and also the fact that HR, the importance of HR in driving business transformation, as more and more organizations are bringing that people and business strategy together. But going back to the employee experience, one of the things that I hear from customers all the time is we can't get our employees to engage. And when I think about talent development, employees are at the center of reskilling. And what's critical about employees is that you need to know about them. And so I like to say that the profile is the birthplace of skills, because that's where all that information emanates from. That's that ecosystem for an employee, a manager, and a leader to understand what's going on in their organization. And so really being able to help employees understand what's in it for them, why would they want to give that information? Well, we can precede a profile for an employee because we know the core skills they have in their current role. But what's important for an organization is to understand that whole person. What's the rich history they brought with them to the organization? Maybe they have some hobbies with some secret skill that you don't know. And this is really important. And then having a system that's dynamically updating in the flow of work where people work. And so this is one of the ways that we are addressing the situation. But that comes from our customers and really understanding the pain points of what they're trying to address. And so that's really where that comes from.
Yeah, I've heard someone say the person closest to the problem should be closest to the solution.
Yeah.
And so you've got maybe buyers here, but they may not be the ones handling it. So that's a really great point that they are also saying, like, we get it. We value this experience. We're thinking about what the workforce is going to do with this.
Exactly. I mean, every leader I talk to, it's all about talent visibility. Who do I have in my organization? Because with the pace of change, right, the impacts of AI, right, we all need that business agility. And so, again, we did research earlier this year on what is the impacts of AI. We're thinking about, it's not just roles and skills, but how do day-to-day tasks get impacted? What gets augmented? What gets automated? And, from that research, in our ServiceNow ecosystem, we actually are predicting in the next few years that a help desk service agent is going to save 10.5 hours per week. That's 25% of someone's 40-hour work week. So when you start to think about that as an organization, how might you reskill or upskill someone to do some more more meaningful work? Or what are some of the transferable skills that they have where they can maybe go from a low, something that's decreasing in demand to a high demand role? And I can give you an example of one we looked at in our ecosystem is an account management specialist. We believe over time that's going to be decreasing in demand, and in a technical project manager, it's just a super high demand role. Interestingly, a non-tech to tech role, they have an 85% match in terms of skills in the 85th percentile, I should say, which is really amazing. And when we looked at it, 29% of the skills, there's absolutely a perfect match. There's a small gap with 51%, which is really just human skills that people can learn on the job. But it really shows that larger gap can be mapped to specific learning to move that person from that role to a high demand role. And so if you start to think about that at scale, this is really where you start to unlock that capacity and have that agility in your organization.
Do you think that employees are ready for this? Because I'm thinking of maybe myself.
Yeah.
It's not been a habit to tell your work place that I have this other skill. I do this
Yeah.
thing on my free time. Do you feel like that's a mind shift for a lot of people?
It's 100% a mind shift. I mean, this is really where change management is so important. Really where it starts to make a difference for an employee, I can give an example for myself. I'm working and I have an aspiration I filled out in a growth plan, and there's a skill I wanted to learn more around our digital technology, our ServiceNow Essentials. Well, a new course came up and it sent me a notification saying, Heather, there's a new course. This aligns with your growth plan. Would you like me to add it to your learning queue? Sent me that in Teams. That's where I do most of my work. So one push of a button, I could say yes. I didn't do anything. It added it to my learning queue. I never left where I was working. Same thing for an employee. So this is how we've designed talent development, is to meet the employees where they are working. And over time, what they start to see is like, oh, the more the system gets to know me, the more customized the offers and recommendations become, and the more aware I am of opportunities within the organization. So if you think about internal roles that come open, and if you're a really good match and you get digitally tapped to say, hey Jill, you're a really good match for this role, would you be interested in learning more? Like, that's where the power starts to get unlocked. But again, that's change management. Like, that's really important, because again, the employee wants to know what's in it for me, because I don't want to fill out one more profile. Like, you know.
Yeah. And also, what's going to happen if I get this job suggestion? Is this going to be okay with my manager if I look at it? There is a lot of communication involved.
Right, exactly, and that's why you need a system that can help manage, where, like our opportunity marketplace, it needs manager approval for someone, if you're going to do a project or gig, to say, yes, I'm okay with Jill taking, 5% a week of her time and going and working over in this other organization.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see this actually happening in real time with your clients, because I know so many people tell me they love big ideas, but they want to know who's done it and kind of learn from their peers. So you're in a really unique position to say, here's some success stories.
Yeah, and I think everyone's on a different phase of the maturity curve, and I don't think I mentioned it before, but I think about this as the 4-dimensional workforce. We didn't talk about that. Okay.
No, we didn't.
So I like to think about this as the 4 dimensions of how do you go from where you are to really the holy grail of where you want to get. And so I say every organization is at the first dimension, which is I know the names and titles of people in my organization. The second dimension, where I think a lot of organizations are now, which is, okay, what roles do I have in my company and what skills map to those roles? And again, this goes to having that employee profile and seeing the whole person and having technology that helps you dynamically update that. So that's really that second dimension. You get to the third dimension when you layer in your corporate strategy. So with the fast pace of technology change now, again, going back to our research, you really need to understand now, it's not a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan. It is, what do I need in the next 12, 18, 24 months from now, and where are we, what is our strategy, and what am I going to need? So layering that over is that third dimension. And then the fourth is really time and the impacts of AI. So it's taking all that information of how day-to-day work is changing and how organizations can use that to sort of morph themselves and future-proof into where they're going.
It's a reminder of what's the HR role has really become a strategic.
Yes.
I mean, the amount of strategic thinking it takes to get from that, here's my org chart, to that fourth dimension.
Yes, exactly.
That's a really valuable set of skills.
But we also know, we recognize it's not easy, and which is why we're creating technology. We're trying to take the pain out, and that's why talking with customers, we're trying to figure out piece by piece, how do we make a system that works for 3 core personas? It has to be employee focused first and foremost. We need to help managers, who are so taxed, and their employees too, but who do I have on my team? What gaps do I have? What have I committed I'm going to deliver over the next 12 months? Do I really have the people who I can actually do that? And then for leaders to holistically understand in their organization, what skills do they really have? And again, like I said, how do you future-proof for not 10 years from now or 5 years from now, but 12 and 24 months from now?
Yeah. How much do you feel that data has changed the HR role?
I think it has vastly changed the HR role. I mean, if you think about just skills data alone, that's a very valuable currency when you think about it. So I think this is where, as I said from our employee experience trends report, the overarching theme was the importance of HR's role, right? Of being that leader who's driving business transformation, marrying that, people strategy with your business strategy, really being that sort of thought partner with the CEO of how do we go from where we are to where we need to be, and then working with the other C-level executives to think about how do we do this with the people, because there's the change management. You need to bring the people with you. And you need leaders to understand why this is important and, how it's going to get them to where they need to be.
I heard someone say, I think it was yesterday during Women in HR Tech, someone said we need to change from becoming a workplace that requests a report to a workplace that knows how to form a problem statement and find the solution to it.
Right.
So it's a much bigger job than looking at a report and saying, oh, right here, there's that little problem spot,
Well, and, everyone keeps saying, employees are really afraid right now, is AI going to take my job? And it's really part of HR's responsibility to help them understand, actually no, AI is going to make work more human for you. Let's let the machines do the repetitive, mundane tasks. Let's move you into more high value work. And so this is really where this becomes really important, is that the human skills are really the power skills as we move forward.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time. Have there been any surprises or anything conversations you've had that came out of this event that you're like, oh wow, that's new food for thought?
I think what's surprising to me is, HR used to be the one that kind of sat back and let everyone kind of let's wait and see what happens in other areas of the company. They're actually now at the table leading the discussion. So I think that's what's really surprising to me, is how much HR leaders have leaned in, and they understand they're not alone in this either. When we think about responsible AI, they are partnering with all their colleagues across the organization to really think through, how do we make sure we're people first, we're protecting people's data, but that we're also doing things that helps enable their work and makes it more efficient. So I think that's what surprised me, is just that HR is jumping in and being actually a leader with technology. We're not lagging behind.
Obviously this is an event with HR tech, but it's not technically HR. It is enterprise tech for millions of people to be using, with HR leaders strategizing about it.
Well, and it's interesting because I didn't grow up in the world of HR. I've always said I'm not the peg that fits in the round hole. I haven't had a vertical career. And this really is, this is a business discussion, and it's about people, and it's about the human dynamic. And the interesting thing is, the great equalizer, we're all learning together. It's not like one organization has this figured out.
True.
This is new technology. This is a once in a generation experience that we're going through together. And I think that's what's neat about HR leaders, though, is that we connect together to talk about, hey, what's happening in your organization? What can I learn from you? Or you're in a different industry, but how can I pattern what you've learned and bring it over into my industry? And we're starting to see it everywhere. From our Impact of AI report, we know that the retail industry in 6 of the 8 countries we looked at is going to be the most impacted. And I think about all the travel I've done recently, and I think about, retail, and I went to the store to get water and I checked myself out. When I went to go check my bag, I put on my own tag, I put it on the weight thing, and then I put it on the conveyor belt. I went through customs, and it was self-serve through customs. And then the best is, when I checked into the hotel here, I had my digital key, but I wanted the safety net of an actual key. I got in line, and it actually self-guided me to make my own key. My own room key. So it's you're starting to see it unfold in front of you.
Really great.
And it was so fun. We were all giggling. It was like a little kid when you wanted to be the shopkeeper and have your own register. It's the same thing.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is so fun. I'm making my own room key.
It's a
as
real
silly as it
example,
sounds.
though, because it's exactly what we're all experiencing right now.
We're just wanting that efficiency, but we're actually seeing it work. And I think, COVID was really interesting because everyone said, oh, we can't have people work from home. That'll never work. Well, we learned very quickly.
True.
Not only did we have to, but we found ways to make this work. And so I think it's opened us up to be more willing to let people do things that we never thought was possible. I mean, like, think about Uber or even Airbnb, that I'm going to rent out my home to someone.
Good point.
You know, or I'm going to jump into someone's car I don't know, and look at, like, these are things we use every day now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a fun time. It's a fun time to be thinking about people and how technology can support us and how people and AI can work together.